Okay, mga kabansa, it's been a very, very wet and windy day. Makakasama natin po ngayong gabi our long lost elder brother, lost because busy siya at yung kanyang internet signal madalas dati mahina, but we'll try again. Mukhang maayos naman ang signal dyan sa Antipolo. Si Mauro Samonte, our eldest guru dito sa grupo natin. Mauro, bumati ka nga, kitang-kita ka na dyan.
Magandang gabi. Nice to be talking to you again, Mentong. Masyadong formal yung salutation mo sa akin.
Salutations, okay.
Anyway, I hope to have an evening of go ahead.
Okay. Yung signal mo, ayun, medyo naglalaro-laro ngayon, medyo nagloloko ng kaunti, no? And our early joiner po sa usapan po natin ngayong gabi, ngayong araw, dahil ang ating mga audiences from all over the world, and it could be daytime, it could be nighttime. Si Marial Bautista Bogia, I don't know how to pronounce that, at maraming mga icons siya, hearts, and flags, Philippine flag, and so on. Si Florence Eknerol, good evening po sa inyong mga sir, sabi niya. And then Antonio Miguel Carlos, magandang gabi po, Mentong at Direct Mauro. Alam na alam ang history mo siguro.
Direct kilala niya ako, ha?
Then Felipe Cruz is here with us. Good evening sa inyo, Mentong and Mauro. We have a lot of topics. In fact, baka sobrang marami ngayong gabi na aking nilinya. And maraming interesting subject matter today, itong nakaraang linggo. Si Gardo Talisay, kasama na natin sa YouTube. Ito ang tunay na public affairs program. Sabi niya, dami kang mapupulot na konkretong impormasyon at parehas, meaning fair. Okay, let's start with our first topic, Mauro. Dahil nga this has gripped the attention of the nation for 2 weeks now at least. At finally, natapos na. At si Velasco ay naupo na bilang Speaker of the House. Ang mas interesting dito, hindi lang po yung Cayetano versus Velasco, pero lalo-lalo na sa pananaw ni Rod Kapunan, Mauro, may mas malalim na laro. Ang tingin niya ito from the perspective of an American agenda na ginagampanan ni Cayetano. Nung pinag-isipan ko, may basehan kasi talagang itong si Cayetano, ang ina Amerikano, dual citizenship pata ito, and alam naman natin ang history nito, Dilawan, talagang yung buong pamilya nito from the father, si Rene, down to Alan, down to the sister, Senator Cayetano din, ay nakinabang dyan sa mga ABS-CBN, sa mga Dilawan lahat, and so on. So ang tingin ni Rod Kapunan, itong si Cayetano ay nag-attempt ng isang house coup, makontrol ang budget, at ito ay gamitin para bigyan ng problema ang Duterte administration sa mga darating na taon, at talagang gawing lame duck si Duterte. Now, may anggulo pa na ito may collaboration kay Leni Robredo, although si Leni Robredo nagbigay ng suporta ata verbally in public kay Velasco, so maybe that negates that angle. Pero alam natin na si Velasco naman suportado ni Sara Duterte at ni Paulo Duterte, at mukhang talagang may bendisyon ni Duterte, ni Presidente Duterte ito. So that gives credence to the analysis of Rod Kapunan. On the other hand, ang ating kasamang si Ado, bumabatikos dito kay Velasco as a crony or an instrument of San Miguel Corporation. Ang reaksyon ko naman, on both sides, may mga interest sa likod, interest din behind Cayetano. What's your reaction to that analysis, Mauro?
Hindi ito hindi tayo ganun kalalim. I normally do not base my analysis on speculation. I need to have facts. Kung wala akong facts, hindi ako makakapagsabi ng anything categorical. Although I go by laws of development na may mga tendency sinusunod ng mga events. When events fall into place, makakapagsalita ako. Well, with this incident kay Velasco, what only intrigues me, bakit kinakailangan magkaroon sila ng preemptive move dun sa saan ba yung meeting la kahapon sa Quezon City Sports Center. Why did they have to do that? Magkaroon sila ng ahead of an official congressional session. Anong tingin mo doon? Bakit kinakailangan mauna sila?
Well, negotiations, probably. So I cannot speculate there either, no. But in analysis of political developments, madalas wala namang ebidensyang babasehan eh. At you just have to connect the dots, no. So
Yeah.
I find the position of Rod plausible, but maaring sobrang pinalalim niya na hindi naman naisip, abot kaya ng isip din ni Alan Cayetano. Basically, self-interest ito. And sa akin tingin, go ahead.
Meron lang akong hint dyan kay Cayetano, no? Remember the snafu rin, yung isang controversy din dun sa Southeast Asian Games. Remember? Matagal munang na-settle yun eh. Nag-aagawan yung Philippine Olympic Committee at saka yung PISCOC na ang chairman si Cayetano. Nung madali route ko, ang history nun, nagpasa si Cayetano ng budget na I think that was 6 billion. Am I correct?
Well, I'm not following that.
No. 6 billion budget for the Southeast Asian Games. And then later on, he made himself chairman of the PISCOC, which has control over that budget. So, something special always dito kay Cayetano. Nagmamanewra siya, and then later, he becomes the beneficiary ng kanyang maneuvers. So, most likely,
Kasakiman.
Yun nga, it's always that way. No? So, itong ginagawa niyang semblance of hostage of the budget, maring tama dun sa sinasabi na is geared towards making Duterte lame duck. Pero di ba siya? The Nationalist Party aligned with the Yellow camp?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of official alignment of the parties. Alam naman natin ang mga partido sa Pilipinas mga instrumento ng mga may pera at instrumento ng mga nakahawak ng mga posisyon sa partido, di ba? So I would think that's secondary. The main factor, I think, is the self-interest and ambition of Cayetano, and si Velasco mukhang masunurin sa mga Duterte, and I think very useful for the administration. In fact, not just useful, very fundamental, lalo na dito sa period na papasok sa transition to the next government. So we will see what Sara Duterte also has up her sleeves. Kasi from the very beginning, Sara naman ang nagtutulak kay Velasco, di ba? Sige, Mauro, go ahead.
If this has any bearing at all upon the coming presidential contest, malapit na 2021 na next year. 1 year more, labanan na naman sa kampanya. Na, who is the probable contender from the Nationalist Party?
I do not have any idea right now. Kung si Cayetano, wouldn't it be Cayetano? If he's with the National...
Yeah, but he can be a kingmaker.
Well,
in that event. Sino ba ang meron bang probable sa Nationalist Party? I can see only Cynthia, but is she a potential winner?
We'll analyze the presidentiables in some other episode. No, that's a subject we have to focus on. But it's really still too early in the game. Although our Zoom session with Bongbong Marcos, I think, indicates that the candidates are already preparing, because by next October they'll be filing their certificates of candidacy, and the preparations are already being made. The apparent contenders are already there. The names: Pacquiao, Sara Duterte, even Lacson, and so on. No, but let's reserve that for another session. There's Leslie Bocobo, my philosopher, vagabond. Kung baga, he roams around the country, and then on Facebook discusses very interesting points. No? Sabi niya, good evening mga idol. Si Florence Eknerov, mga sir, matagal na single-digit COVID case dito sa Singapore. Eknerov is in Singapore. And Giancarlo EY, magandang gabi bayan. That's what he always greets us with.
Yeah. Friend ko yan sa Facebook.
He's a campaigner against lockdowns, no? But I think there's no absolutism dito sa lockdowns versus non-lockdowns and so on. I think the proper approach is a balance and a mix depending on the situation. So si Enrico Abejar is with us. Magandang gabi po, Mentong and Mauro, na bigyan na po ng prangkisa ang SMC para magtayo ng airport sa Bulacan sa tulong ni Grace po. Sa Senado yan, bigyan na. I think they'll still have to tackle that in Congress. You have any impression there, Mauro?
Yung tungkol sa San Miguel Corporation?
Airport. Yung airport.
Having been given a franchise for the airport. I'm not very conversant about technical matters, airport building, but does it need a franchise? Ganun ba yan?
Yeah, all public utilities need a franchise. Anyway, si Ado ang talagang
may expertise siya dyan. Ako lang expertise dyan. Doon lang ako sa masa.
Si Romy Abiliar is with us. Magandang gabi po, Mentong and Mauro. Mabuhay po kayo. Dan Malyari is also with us. Mabati ng magandang gabi sa iyo at sa akin, Mauro. No? And then sa YouTube, si Gardo Talisay, nabanggit na. Jonathan Clavasio. Good evening sa inyong dalawa. Sabi niya, and more power. Maharli Kyle, mukhang parte na po ng Deep State ang Zoo TV. Dahil joint forces na sila ng kanilang block time partners GMA News TV at ABS-CBN sa paninira po sa ating gobyerno. Well, alam po ninyo itong mga Western religious branches sa buong mundo ay one way or another may tie-up po, consciously or unconsciously. Kasi madali naman pasukan, madali na i-direct channel ng mga religious movements with funding, and ang pinaka-ehemplo po dyan is the Moon Church, sa South Korea. Talagang there is a history. It's all exposed as a religion designed to fight communism and the other ideologies dun sa South Korea. Si Dion Lenny Legisniana, masyado pong knowledgeable ang mga topics dito sa Power Things, kaya mga kabansa, dito na po tayo makinig at manood. Dina Abdullah, good afternoon po sa inyo, watching from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So, Mauro, we have an audience all over the world. Si Jim Kabawatan is joining us. Si Jim Kabawatan, Mauro, is part of the movement, I think, of Nilo Tayag we were discussing earlier. Okay, let's next subject matter. Well, this is the Philippines and China to open the fast-track lane for key sectors staff. The Philippines and China have agreed to set up reciprocal fast-track lanes for human resources in key industries such as infrastructure and trade amid the coronavirus pandemic, Manila's Department of Foreign Affairs said on Sunday. Kaya ako hina-highlight po ito. This is progress. We have to start moving sa economy, sa ating build. We have to start moving sa diplomatic, close diplomatic coordination. We should have to start coordinating with China on Coast Guard and so many other issues. At yan po ay hindi magiging episyente at epektibo kung walang personal direct coordination and cooperation. So itong fast track lane, ang intention po nito, mga piling-piling mga tao na bibigyan ng espesyal na piso,
Saan
paghahanda.
magagaling yung mga taong yon?
Well, from the Chinese companies and from the Chinese government and the Philippine government, going back and forth between China and the Philippines. For example, I would think that our tourism official should be meeting with the Chinese tourism official to see if we can restart tourism in the country, because last year nag 1.8 tayo, napakalaking tulong yan sa pag-restart ng Philippine economy kung ating magawa yan. Pero sa kasalukuyan, kung nung simula nung outbreak sa China, Pilipinas ang takot sa mga dumarating na Chino kasi meron pang outbreak doon. Ngayon ang China naman ang maingat doon sa mga pumapasok sa loob ng China kasi na-control na nila doon sa loob ng China, Mauro, di ba?
Balita ko, zero count na ang COVID case sa China.
Zero in most places since well, I think in the past month na zero na, but nagkakaroon ng mga localized outbreak. For example, I think lately I had a news item I wanted to discuss, but sa dami ng hindi ko na maipagkasya. I'm not sure where, but there were 12 cases, 7 cases domestic, 7, and then the rest was imported cases sa isang probinsya sa China. 12 lang infected. They shut down.
All over China yan, ha?
No, they're shutting down in the local areas, and they will test the entire 10 million population of that province. 10 million, itetest nila para siguradong kahit na 12 lang yan, itetest nila ang 10 milyong populasyon ng probinsya.
Anyway, Mentong, let me get back to yung fast track lane na yung sinasabi mo. Ano ang task nito?
Well, to set up reciprocal fast track lanes for human resources, meaning people, in key industries such as infrastructure, trade, and trade. For example, yung mga projects natin sa Kaliwa Dam, yung mga construction.
Yun nga. Ano na nangyari sa Kaliwa Dam?
Well, the other projects we have had reports, the Binondo Bridge. Yung ba sa inyong lugar? Yung Pito kanina?
Ang alin?
Pito may
oo. Yung apo ko.
Sige. So yung mga projects na may ulat tayo are Binondo, Intramuros Bridge, yung
Estrella Pantaleon,
Chico Dam, tuloy-tuloy. I have not heard the direct reports sa Kaliwa Dam yet. But in other words, all these projects requires engineers and so on. So yun, that would be one example of the people that would need to be fast-tracked to come to Manila. And kung atin naman, maybe our frontliners that need training sa COVID-19 issues or sa vaccine na maaaring dumating na Nobyembre, Disyembre, ayun ay mga dapat mai-fast track at magkaroon ng personal na coordination sa mga yan. But anyway, we'll let you
29 packages yun, natatandaan ko, Mentong, di ba? How many of the 29s are on track?
Well, according to the reports from Ambassador Huang Xilian, he is monitoring everything, and everything is around 80% on schedule. 80%.
Good. So mga nasa 20 projects yan.
Yeah. Okay, now there's progress at least in Philippine relations with Facebook. Kung maalala po ninyo, nung nakaraang linggo, nagalit si Presidente Duterte sa Facebook at nagkaroon ng diskusyon sa social media. Pwede pang nating tigilan yan dahil malaking kalugihan din para sa Facebook pagka pinatigil, binlock ang Facebook dito sa Pilipinas. I also nag-post ako na why don't Filipino techies start a Philippine Facebook? No? Merong nagsabi na meron naman, ano, na dapat i-develop lang. Well, ang pinaka-issue last week on this Facebook matter is the takedown, yung tinanggal ng Facebook ang page ng advocacy group na
Hands of Our Children.
Yung Hands of Our Children, ano? So it's right in front of us ngayon. What I prepared then, si Relisa Santos Lucena, na galit, na iiyak siya nung tinake down ng Facebook yung Hands of Our Children. And in fact, I also interviewed them on our TV show sa One Media Forum, which I am still trying to see if we have posted on YouTube. No? But mukhang ang ating Armed Forces of the Philippines, which is the main party supporting the Hands of Our Children, helping them and so on, nagprotesta sa Facebook at nagkaroon ng negotiation and mukhang ayusin na, ibabalik na ng Facebook and they will reconstruct the page of the HOOC. No, Facebook offers to reconstruct Hands of Our Children page. Sabi ni
So wala pang desisyon na ibalik, pag-aaralan pa lang? Ganun ba yan?
Ito report. Armed Forces Chief Gilbert Gapay said on Tuesday that Facebook made the offer but admitted it cannot restore the original page of Hands of Our Children, an organization composed of parents whose children were recruited into the NPA. So
bakit hindi?
They have an offer. So that means that's a positive step na gawin. Now, I don't know yung original page, what if there are technicalities involved or there are rules they have.
What I want to find out, Mentong, bakit hindi nila may restore? Meron bang problema yung original page? Anong problema? Ganun.
Yeah. I don't go into the details kasi I think the first step for them in the
actually, I discussed that in my column, yung tungkol dyan sa Hands of Our Children, and I find it a very valid cause. Bakit i-take down? All because nag-report si Maria Reza na merong something negative about that, kung ano man. But alam naman natin itong Maria Reza ito, pinagsisilbahan nito si Umidyar. Si Umidyar na tagapagpabagsak ng mga rehimen na kontra sa Amerika. So, I find Facebook very inimical sa interest ng sambayan ng Pilipino sa ganyang panuntunan. So,
well, alam natin well, alam natin ng Facebook instrumento ng kanluran. It cannot avoid that, no? Although it has business and financial interest that other parties can leverage against them if worse push comes to shove, tulad ng mga sinabi ni Presidente Duterte, nagalit siya, no? And there was a pushback from the Philippine government and from the Philippines, and nag-react naman ng Facebook at mukhang nagkakaroon ng negotiation. So that's a positive thing that we can really leverage their
yeah. So you consider that something positive? Ganun ba? Ganito naman sa akin dyan, let's unmask Facebook for what it is, na ito ay kontra sa kontra ito sa Pilipinas, kontra ito sa bayan, kontra ito sa ating advocacy na palayain ng Pilipinas sa kuko ng agila ng Estados Unidos. Huwag na natin siya bigyan ng puwang na magbagong puri. Pagbabagong puri ang ginagawa niya, no?
Pero ibabalansin.
Restore HOOC. I-restore niya yung HOOC to the original status nito. Wala itong ginagawang masama eh. In fact, maganda nga advocacy. Bakit niya alisin? Tapos mag-push ng alternative move na actually ang magiging deodorant sa kanya. Not necessarily palilitawin yung kanyang kasamaan, kundi pababanguin pa siya.
I will make 2 points, Mauro. Number one, let's leave it to the negotiators tulad ni General Gapay, to push this, and if we can reach him with our perspective, with our suggestion, let's do so. Total, may channel ka naman to the armed forces through General Parlade. Let's bring it up, and of course may platform ka naman to write about it sa column mo, so, and then this discussion of ours. But I would like to make the point, number one, ang Facebook has two faces too. One face is the commercial face, business face, and the other face, it is an American entity which can be pressured, can also have the American self and national interest at heart. So that being established, yung commercial face naman niya, yung mukha niyang negosyo, tinitingnan din niya kung anong makakasakit sa kanyang profit line, di ba? Bottom line. And we can use that. And other countries have used that. I have reported dito sa ating Power Things, last episodes, that Thailand did that. And Thailand sued Facebook, and I don't know the latest development diyan. Basta kinasuhan nila ang Facebook sa korte. Ang Singapore, pinilit ang Facebook na maglagay ng mga comments ng Singapore government to the posts that the Singapore government felt offensive or violative of their principles or whatever. So mayroong, in other words, may leverage tayo. Because we must also appreciate, while we don't have our own Facebook entity, for example, the Russians have the VK. I don't know what VK means, but I've also registered there already. I have an account in VK in preparation to a migration later on. But it would be better with 110 million population and maybe 10 million population all over the world, both immigrants and OFWs. We are a force already, di ba? And we should develop, with the help possibly of government, mas mabilis ang development, our own Facebook. So those 2 points lang. Of course, you take the militant line, and that's a good balance. I'm just taking
ganito lang, Mentong. Tinake down ng Facebook ang HOOC. So there must have been a violation by HOOC. That's what I want to be clear doon. Ano yung violation ng HOOC except yung report ni Maria Reza?
Well, itong mga rules naman ay internal rules ng Facebook. We can only negotiate, we can only leverage against them and make them respond. So this is one response. Maybe we can get more response depending on those who are negotiating with them. But there's no question talaga na ito ay biased against everybody and for the American interest. That's why ang kanilang pinili na fake news checker, sila Maria Reza.
Yan, alam natin kung ano yan eh.
At yung pinuno ng Facebook dito, I don't know what the official title is, staff ni Lenny Robredo. So puro mga dilaw ang mga ginagamit ng Facebook. May pinagmamalaki pang picture si Maria Reza, kaakbay si Mark Zuckerberg, So it's a fact. It can be an instrument of the Americans, and to the extent we can use it, nagagamit din naman natin with also our information, our posts, and so on. In fact, our program now is being shown on Facebook as well as YouTube, So, Mauro, that's the entire story there.
Well, anyway, I'll try to get updates on the issue. Wala akong bagong updates, and let's talk about it next time around.
We keep updating naman dito sa mga nangyayaring ito. So in our next discussion, baka may bagong development yan. From Dan Malyari, watching from Guam, si Dan Malyari, magandang gabi daw. Jim Kabuatan, we mentioned na. And si Grasir Sabe, mahirap mukhang Savio Utripse. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Mabuhay po kayo, sabi dito. Carlos Andalio Anyago, ako po, ang tingin ko kay Cayetano ay gusto lang niyang tapusin ang budget ng 2021 kaya po siya hindi pa nagre-resign. Understandable naman po kasi yung nag-usap sila ni Velasco ay wala pa pong pandemya. So ang nangyari po ay talagang makadidelay, kaya po hindi po siya nakatupad sa usapan. Kahit po ako, pag may sinisimulang trabaho, ang gusto ko pong tapusin kapag iniwan ko, gusto niyang tapusin kapag iniwan ko. Anyway, keep safe po lagi kayo. Okay, thank you very much. Talagang paki-update po. Ano ba to? Pa-shout naman ang DOTR at ito at LTO. Tagal nang nagbabayad ng car registration since 4 years na. Wala pa rin yung plate. Ay, talaga itong issue na to. Wala pa rin plate number at ngayon naman walang car sticker. Paki-update po ang mga taga-LTO. Well, maybe you can mention that in your column, Kaado. And Florence Exnerol, may conference kanina sa FB ng NTF LCAC with NPA returnees. Isiniwala lahat doon kung sino ang Makabayan Block. Kindly repay mga kababayan sa inyo ring mga sir. Okay. And let's see sa kabila. Dion Legisliana, nabasa na po natin. Diana Abdullah watching from Saudi Arabia. Gavin Elcano, tanong ko lang, Mentong, pwede bang ilan ang PET recount result ng naging panalo si Lenny para dismiss ang protesta ni BBM saka yung Rule 65 dahil sabi nila final decision na iyon sa SC. Well, we'll go to that when we have time. Pepe Malonzo, good PM, Mentong and Mauro. Mr. Harley, ano na pong balita sa new map passport po ng Pilipinas? Okay, we'll have to update on that, no? Salvador David, Mentong, hindi nila kaya isarayang show mo kasi halatang halata na sila. We can never tell, no? But right now we're still on, so tuloy naman po, no? May politika din tayong dapat ilaro sa lahat ng mga to survive, no? While like our country, we have to have the politics, geopolitics, ibabalanse lahat yan while we are trying to restart the Philippine economic growth, and stabilization. Good evening, Mentong, sabi ni Maximus Elisius at Mauro, mabuhay tayong lahat. Paulo Antonio Pineda, good evening sa inyo mga maestro. Noong panahon down ng martial law, dumami ang CPP-NPA, sabi ng mga alleged historians. Totoo ba ito? Sino ang recruiter ng mga rebelding ito? For such a very long history, can you put it in 2 sentences, Mauro, the history of the NPA, why it grew and what Marcos did and so on? Parang natigil ang yun.
Sasabihin ko lang sarili kong karanasan, no? I was never recruited. I was in the management committee of the Makabayan Publishing Corporation. Nalapitan ako ng rank and file employees na pamunuan ng kalang union dahil wala pang union na nabubuo sa Araneta Empire. So, kinailangan nilang pamumuno ko at ewan ko, ganun na ako eh. Medyo may complex akong maging tagadala ng problema ng bayan eh. Kaya nung sabihin nilang mamuno ako, tinanggap ko yung pagiging presidente ng Kamao, katipunan ng mga kababayang obrero ng Makabayan Publishing Corporation. Anyway, nung i-present namin yung aming letter demand sa management, at siyempre, naging sa akin, buwelta yung pinatalsik ako sa tungkulin. Kaya nag-strike kami. Doon sa strike, nakita ng kilusan na kumikilos ako para sa uring manggagawa. Yan, nahigop ako. Hindi ako yung kagaya nung ginagawa ngayon si Maria Season. Nag-DDG siya sa mga universidad, sa mga campus at nag-recruit ng mga kabataan. Alam mo, nagdurugo ang puso ko, Mentong. Nakikita ko yung mga kabataan babae, na-recruit nila. Pagkatapos nakita ko na isang araw, meron na namang namatay. Dahil napalaban sa enkwentro. Ang babata, kamukha lang ni Chay. Tapos napunta sa MPA, dapat na pinakikinabangan ng magulang, o kaya napananagutan niya yung kanyang tungkulin sa pamilya, napunta doon sa MPA, sinayang lang yung buhay niya. Kayong mga nandyan sa MPA, wala akong kontra sa inyo. Kasi hindi kayo papasok diyan kung masasamang tao kayo. Mabubuting tao kayo nandyan. Kaya ayoko na kayong manatili dyan. Putang inang season na yan. Tanggihan nyo na yan. Kung kaya nyo patayin nyo na yan. Putang inang yan. Sinisira niya ang kinabukasan ng kabataan. Putang inang yan.
Tatlo na yun. Okay.
Yeah. Hindi ako ni-recruit. Nagkusa ako, nagbuhos ng aking dyan. Dahil naniniwala ako. Yung pala putang ina, ginagamit lang ni Season ang kabataan para isulong yung kanyang personal na pagnanais na maging bida, maging Diyos sa lipunang Pilipino.
Apat na yun. Nire-record ni Maria Reza yan at isusumbong tayo sa Facebook.
Anyway.
Panglima na yun. Okay. And,
wala, pasensya ka. Binuksan mo yung hindi mo pipigilan damdamin ko dyan. No?
Okay lang.
Kinabukasan ko, sinira din ng kilusan na yan.
Sabihin lang natin ka, Mauro, that sila Ninoy and the Americans helped promote Joma Season. Nag-martial law si Presidente Marcos after the Plaza Miranda bombing, which is established already in history that Joma ordered. And so, real naman yung threat na hinaharap ng bayan, nasabayan pa later on ng MILF rebellion. And Marcos had a vision of the new society. And nung lumaki ang NPA, dahil nga the government was just on the way to reorganizing society, may issue sila, may cause siya, and of course yung tulong ng outside forces. But at the end of the 80s, I think talagang napilay nakulong si Joma Season and so on. Yun lang, pumasok na naman with the help of the Americans itong co-Reagan government and nirelease na naman si Joma. Kita natin na nilalaro ng powers that be yung elementong...
Kamentong, maputol kita sandali. Tayo na pumasok dyan sa kilusan, taos puso tayo, sisiro tayo dyan, naniwala tayong totoo. No? Kaya dumami yan Marami yan talagang gusto ng pagbabago. At ganun kalaki yung ka-effective yung propaganda ni Ninoy Aquino laban kay Marcos. Nadala tayo doon. Para tayo yung mga daga, di ba may Pied Piper? Yung dahil doon sa Pied Piper, yung mga daga inakit nung Pied Piper papunta sa ilog. Ganun ang ginawa sa atin ni Season. Ngayon, may pagkakataon pa naman, tayong mga tumanda na diyan sa kilusan, nakita natin yung kamalian, binabahagi natin ang katalinuhan na natutunan natin sa mga kabataan. Huwag na tayong paggagago diyan kay Season. Walang mangyayari sa armed struggle. Sinasabi ko, sa ngayon, walang armed struggle ang nananalo sa buong mundo na. Lahat-lahatin na natin. Walang armed struggle ang nanalo. Ang huling na nalaman kong nanalong armed struggle, yung sa Cuba, noong 1960s, ni Fidel Castro. Pero after that, wala nang armed struggle. Pasay na ang armed struggle bilang paraan ng pagbabago. Merong paraan na dapat natin pag-isipan na hindi kinakailangang maghawak ng armas at ang mga agaw ng kapangyarihan ng gobyerno. Sumunod na lang tayo sa gobyerno hanggat maganda naman ang programa ng gobyerno. Paano na natin, palaguin na natin yung kanilang pagkilos para isulong ang kapakanan ng taong bayan. Huwag na natin yung kontrahin yan.
Well, hindi sasapat na ang isang oras kayo.
Pag ganyan ang tema natin, kahit magdamag tayo mag-uusap dito, hindi tayo maubusan. Hindi ko pa nasasabi lahat ng gusto kong sabihin tungkol dyan, Mentong.
Buhay mo nga, ibubuhos mo sa papaliwanag niyan Okay. Ang may bati dito, mabuhay from Juliet Camaro, matagal na natin kasama. And then may Korean name dito, magandang gabi po, Mentong. Finally, nakaabot sa live niyo. Sana po matalakay niyo po ang national ID na silip ni Senator Amy, more power. Sige po, we'll schedule that. And Edna Soriano, good evening, sabi dito. Si Juliet Camaro, nabanggit na po natin. And let's see, Alvin Ariola, meron pang pangalan para dito. Good evening, Mentong and Mauro. Okay, let's move on for the next subject matter. Itong progreso sa ilalim ni Presidente Duterte, na yung mga project kahit tayo dumadaan sa COVID-19 pandemic, natatapos po yung mga proyekto. Nothing is being permanently delayed, if there has been some delay. But magandang balita ulit ito, tulad ng balita about yung pagdugtong na ng BGC Ortigas Bridge over the Pasig dito sa tabi ng Guadalupe Bridge with a Chinese contractor there. Dito naman, yung Metro Manila Skyway 3 project completed ahead of schedule. This is a report of October 13. Kahapon lang po lumabas sa mga balita po. So we celebrate this again in the unbroken chain of projects that are being completed despite this pandemic. Mauro, I'll just move on to the next item, then maybe you can react to a pooled number of items. This is Philippines in relation to the world. Of course, ito po ay very recent lang, October 10, doon sa bisita po ni Foreign Secretary natin, Locsin, to Yunnan, China, to meet with Foreign Minister and State Minister Wang Yi of China. And ang kinalabasan po dito ayon sa maraming ulat, including Reuters and American Wire Services, sabi dito, Philippines says it and China reaffirm strong relations. No? And again, paalala po yan, yung sayaw ng diplomasya ay hindi po simple lang. Maraming pirouettes yan, maraming steps, pero habang patuloy ang sayaw, mabuti po ang relasyon. Kasi ito ay paalala lang na yung sinasabing mga arbitration awards and so on, maliit na bagay yun, formalidad kung minsan binabanggit ng gobyerno, pero hindi po yan hadlang sa magandang at maunlad na ugnayan sa China. I'll move on to the next item, then I'll go back to you, Mauro. Ang isang malaking issue nung itong nakaraang 2 linggo na po, ay yung US spy plane na ginagamit ang air code ng civil aircraft ng Pilipinas, including civilian passenger aircraft. Yan po ay napakalaking peligro sa mga travelers po natin, sa mga airlines natin. Anong katapusan ng Setyembre, hiningi na ni Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana sa US Embassy ang paliwanag kung totoo ba to at kung anong nangyari. Sinundan ni National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon yung sa parehong tanong sa US Embassy. And October 2, nagsalita ulit si National Security Advisor Esperon na hanggang October 2 wala pang eksplanasyon ang US Embassy. And ngayon po, 14 na po ng Oktubre, wala pa rin pong sagot ang US Embassy sa revelasyon ng South China Sea Probing Initiative, itong think tank na alternatibo doon sa Asia Maritime Transparency Institute ng bagong CIA, yung CSIS. Na-expose po itong paggamit ng fake or a third country air code. Malaysia at Pilipinas ang nababanggit na ulat, at halos 100 beses na po na-detect ito ng mga satellites ng China, at ngayon hinihingi nga ng Malaysia at ng Pilipinas ang kapaliwanagan, wala pang lumalabas. Ang ibig sabihin nito sa akin, Mauro, walang maisagot ang Amerika. Talagang totoo ito.
Sa haba ng panahon na yan, dapat nakasagot na sila, pero hindi. Ibig sabihin, totoo. Anyway, ganito ko, bigla pumasok sa isip ko ngayon kami ito. Yung air code na, yung hex code kung tawagin, yung hex code na yan, is that supposed to be confidential? Exclusive to the one being issued?
The intention is to be able to identify internationally the airlines nga.
So hindi yan confidential, Kaya kayang i-fake ng US military. Dahil, pero bakit niya pinipili ang Pilipinas? Why not choose some other countries airlines?
Well, pinili din naman
from Europe or from bakit Pilipinas? Medyo Chapi ka, Mentong.
Pinili din naman nila, how's it now? Pinili din
good.
Malaysia, di ba? Ginamit din nila ang Malaysia. So these are the airlines, I suppose, that they think would be having routes going in
I
that
see.
sea, sa high, upper China Sea, South, upper China Sea. And so,
Unless the
now,
intention, Mentong, unless the intention is to really get the Philippines and Malaysia embroiled in the US-China conflict, just in case.
maraming
Kasi,
maaring tinetesting nila ang mga radar ng China kung i-recognize ba yung shift nila from US Air Code, military air code, tapos papalitan, tapos babalik, and so on. Maraming pwedeng dahilan eh. We don't know. We cannot speculate, no? But the next, now just to remind everybody, lalo-lalo na, may mga mangilang-ilang natitira na mga pro-Americans dyan, na itong ginagawa ng Amerikano ay talagang peligroso at isang katraidoran po yan. Dahil ang mga buhay ng mga Pilipino na maaaring sumasakay ng mga air transport po natin ay nalalagay sa alanganin dito. Dahil doon sa mga nakaraang kaso.
Mabanggit ko, Mentong, yung kaso ng Ukrainian airline na kalilipad lang mula sa Iran, na pagkamalan ng Iranian radar na US missile, tinira yun, sabog, patay lahat. E paano ngayon kung maniwala ngayon yung China na yung Philippine Airline ang talagang nag-i-spy sa bakit mangyari yung ganun, no? Yun na nakakatakot.
Mauro, sa screen ng ating mga audience, andyan po yung tatlong pinaka big cases, no? Yung Korean Airlines 007, 269 killed. Yung Iran Air 655, 1988, 290 killed. Yung Malaysian Airlines na shut down over Ukraine, 283 killed. All because of mistaken identity. And all these involve American operations, So, ayan po.
Ganito ang interested akong malaman ngayon, Mentong. Now that China has found out that its hex code is being used by the US military clandestinely, ano ang ng China towards the Philippines? Meron ba silang being used?
Medyo naging choppy yung sinabi.
At sa akin, ganito kami ito, alam ng China na ginagamit yung hex code ng Philippine Airlines. Right? So, ano ba ang naging action ng China by way of letting this get through to the Philippine government?
Well, ang una
yung information na yun. Meron na ba ito?
Dalawang nangyari. Yung think tank nila, yung SCSPI, ay nag-publish sa Twitter nitong kanilang mga findings. Pangalawa, nag-anunsyo doon sa press conference ng Ministry of Foreign Affairs ng China itong impormasyon na to at yung condemnation nila nitong American vile, they use the term vile, tricks. And so with that, it's up to us, our government now being made aware to take action. Kaya nga yung mga reaksyon ni Lorenzana at ni Esperon. So again, like most developments, we will wait for updates. But at the same time, as you know, I've been trying to initiate action on this to press the Department of Foreign Affairs to take a stronger position here. So far, ang usually madaldal na si Teddy Boy Locsin ay tahimik.
Yeah. Lagi namang tahimik yan pag nalalagay na sa tagilid yung amo niyang kano.
Okay. Well, again, I will balance your comment by saying na naglalaro si Locsin, although may pagka-bias talaga siya culturally sa Amerika. But I think he's trying to serve Duterte very well by being balanced. At minsan, talagang sinasadya niya na maging shock absorber siya sa banat ng publiko instead of kay Duterte. So,
pero things like this na endangered na yung yung bansa mo, lilitaw yung kulay mo talaga eh. If you need to really slam the United States for doing such evil sa Philippine government sa Filipino people. Ba't hindi niya gawin?
Hindi maganda.
Kaya siguro hindi ako pwede maging ambassador eh. Kasi hindi ko kaya maglaro ng ganyan.
Kaya hindi maganda ang silence ni Locsin at this point. 3 linggo nang nakaraan po, nung unang nalaman ni Lorenzana at espero nagsalita na yung dalawa, pero ang ating Department of Foreign Affairs wala pang imik dito. This is not acceptable. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
Si Mentong Meiji, sabi niya in Anglicized Chinese Mandarin, Wansang Hao, Lao Shi, Mentong, and Mauro. Good evening, teachers, Mentong and Mauro. Yan ang sabi ni Jamin Zhou. Naglagay siya ng sariling Chinese family name na middle name, Meiji. Okay, and si Antonio Miguel Carlos nag-react sa iyong long spiel. Sabi niya, galit na si Direk Mauro. Tumalon. Sorry, nasa na ba? Tumalon. Galit na si Direk Mauro pag pinag-uusapan si Season. Puso mo, Ka Mauro. Biro lang po. Baka ba kayo? Marami kayong magagandang ideya para sa madla. And let
babagsak yan. Babagsak yan. Tandaan nyo, babagsak yan. Malapit na yan.
Okay, si Edna Soriano, good evening po. Jim Kabawatan, sadyang ginulo ng mga kaliwa at mga alyado nilang politiko ang lipunan para lalong marami sa armed struggle para pabagsakin si Ferdinand Marcos. No to communism, yes to Philippinism. Okay. From the other side, Global Talk News Radio, si Cesar Soberano po, nag-thumbs up po, Okay, and let's go to the YouTube. Kiko Ilagan, mabuhay po. Mentong, mabuhay ka Mauro. Daisy Marino Lin, good idea yung Mentong kung kailangan din ako para magkaroon ako ng Philippine National ID. So, si Miss Daisy Lin ay nasa labas ng bansa sa kasalukuyan. From Joy Lanuza, bakit walang nakukulong na corrupt congressman at senador? Pareho ba sila ng kulay? Well, ang poder po sa lipunan po natin ay batay sa pera. At may pera sila, may poder sila, and so may connection sila, and napakahirap po iharap sa hustisya. Yan ang mga...
Mentong, may nakulong dalawa. Si Jinggoy at si Bong Revilla. Nakalabas nga lang. Pero nakulong for a time.
So, no? But,
si Juan Ponce really, nakulong din yan for a very short period. Pinakawalan lang dahil matanda na.
Okay. Well, marami pang aayusin sa lipunan natin talaga. Okay, and so those, so Mauro, we had, we pulled together yung Metro Skyway. Philippines says China reaffirms strong relations, and then yung US Air has no explanation for the disguised aircraft. We're moving on now to DITO, the third telecom, na maraming mga anti-China na bumabatikos. Nagsalita sa Oktubre 12 si Secretary of Defense Delfin Lorenzana na ayon dito sa headline, Lorenzana calls as immaterial China's 40% ownership of DITO. And so again, paalala lang sa publiko, itong mga nagngangaw tungkol sa China, very selective po ang kanilang atensyon. Hindi nila tinitingnan yung Salim Group na may may-ari ng Smart na Indonesian and American din ang mga investor dyan sa Salim Group. And then of course itong Globe Telecom na Singapore Telecom ang partner po. And both Globe Telecom and Singapore Telecom use Huawei din, Chinese supplier din. So anong issue? Kaya nga inis na siguro si Lorenzana, sinabi niya, walang kaso yan, this is immaterial. Ikaw, Ka Mauro, yung
yeah, tama yan, gano'n na lang. Ano na lang ako doon, thumbs up na lang ako kay Lorenzana sa alam mo naman ang gagawa ng paraan para guluhin ng gobyerno na hindi sumusunod sa kanya.
Okay.
So, ang maganda dito, mas naging klaro na wala pala dapat pagdudahan kay Presidente Duterte as far as being friendly to China is concerned. Mentong, go ahead.
Or independent from the Western powers, no?
Proceed na tayo, proceed.
Again, yung mga batiko sa Duterte administration tungkol sa COVID-19 response, I think this news item from a non-admirer of Duterte, ang Philippine Star naman, hindi supporter ng Duterte administration. Nag-ulat din nito, including SWS, which is not pro-Duterte. No? SWS says 71% of Filipinos received pandemic cash aid as of September. Sa akin, hindi na masama itong record na 71%, given that we are the country with so many islands and we are not a very organized government. Maganda na itong 71%. What do you think, Mauro?
Yeah, nakakapagtanong-tanong din ako. Naisip ko nga, maganda na rin ginagawa ng gobyerno na tinugunan yung pangangailangan. Yung mga ang tawag doon, ano ba yan? Yung cash out na binibigyan nila.
Yung
malaking pera yun kung tutusin. Ano?
Well, kaya nga lumalaki din.
Nag-chapi tayo.
Nagiging lumalaki din ang ating debt, yung utang natin kasi nga umutang talaga ng malaki itong taong ito para dito sa mga tulong sa publiko. And that's why we have to be more economically aware in the coming times, no, to be pushing for economic recovery. Okay, and my latest column following yours, no, Mauro, on the US pipeline. Sabi ko, this is a monkey, the monkey on our back. Itong US pipeline incident. And ibig sabihin po, the monkey on our back, sa definition yan, ng idiom na yan, either it's a big burden or it's usually referred to, itong monkey on a back, ano, as drug addiction. Kasi itong dependency sa...
Na mahirap itapon yung dagan sa likuran mo eh. Ganun yan eh.
So, well, our audience can read it sa sovereign.ph website, ano. And I think it's being pushed right now so sa internet, so marami po sigurong pwedeng puntahan para mabasa po yan. Okay, Mauro, let's move on to international news. Ano? Now, ito nangyari sa Pilipinas, nangyari din sa Malaysia. Ano, ito from the Malaysian Star, the Star, yung diary po ng Malaysia. Report, US plane disguised itself as Malaysian aircraft to spy on China's military bases. This is September 11 pa, ano, na naulat po kasi unang lumabas po yung ginagamit ng US ay yung mga Malaysian Airlines airplane code, and then sumunod yung Pilipinas, ano. Pero baka mas marami ang gamit nila sa Philippine Air Code. And sasabay ko na ito from the South China Morning Post, ang ulat po ng SCSPI, yung South China Sea Probing Institute. US sent 65 spy planes close to China in September. Isang buwan lang.
65, dama.
60.
Akala ko during the year, 100 lang. Iyan, within the month, 65. Dami.
60. According to the Beijing think tank. No? So, marked rise in flights in Yellow Sea region between China and Korea Peninsula, according to Chinese government-backed body. Increase in air refueling may suggest United States is preparing for future long-distance missions in the South China Sea. It says, bakit po itong second point importante? Kasi mukhang nagpaplano na talaga ng giyera ang US at naghahanda sila. Normally, people would expect that US planes would refuel sa mga base militar nila sa Okinawa, sa Japan, o sa Korea. Pero kung magkasimula ang giyera, hindi na nila magagamit yun. Unang bobombahin ng China yung mga yun. Pinakamalapit yun eh. So ngayon,
Sure.
kanilang pinapractice yung refueling sa ere, pero galing sa Guam yung mga refueling. No? So mid-air ang refueling para mas malayo. Pero tatamaan din ng Guam. But anyway, that's part of their training siguro.
Teka, may tanong lang ako ka, Mentong. How did China find out na spy plane yung mga yon?
Well, alam mo naman yung mga intelligence apparatus nila, radars, and
radar system din na nakadetect, gano'n?
Or satellite. Ngayon, kompleto na nila ang tinatawag nilang Beidou satellite, no? Na ilang daang mga satellite yun na nakapaligid po sa buong mundo, sa upper atmosphere o sa outer space. Ano? Na minomonitor lahat ng mga parte, lalo na ng mga sensitibong ito. So, hindi na makalusot. Kaya nga, tinetesting siguro ng mga Amerikano, tina-turn off on nila yung mga air code signals, transponders, and so on, at pinoprobe. Yun ang nga sabi ni Esperon, mukhang pinoprobe ng Amerikano ang defense systems ng China. Kita natin, na ang na-record nila, hindi sila nag-iimik kasi hindi nila pinapaalam sa Amerikano kung anong alam na nila. And siyempre, itong nilalabas nila ay nilalabas maliit na bahagi lang ng alam pa nila, di ba? Okay.
So, challenge sa atin, Mentong, if we need to take action on this, challenge sa atin na magpakadulubhasa pa ng konti.
That's right.
Technical matters tungkol din sa espionage ng US. Saka sa counter-espionage naman ng China, or how they are able to unearth yung ganong operations ng US.
Lahat ng kakayahan na yan sa technical at sa siyensya ay nababatay rin sa pinupuhunan ng gobyerno at ng lipunan natin sa research and development. Kayang-kaya natin lahat yan, pero kulang naman tayo sa pagkapopondo.
Kulang sa effort?
Financial capabilities.
Financial.
And that's why we have to focus on economics and not politics. Diba?
Now, what I'm saying, Mentong, we are our small group, given yung kanyang limited resources, how can we be more conversant dun sa technical and scientific matters ng espionage issue na yan para maging effective yung ating planning and action.
You mean tayo mismo o yung ating...
Yung tayo, di ba? We're planning to do our little bit of contribution para makunta itong ginagawa ito ng US. Pero it behoves us na magpakadalubhasa pa ng konti pa. Malaman pa ang mga detalye. Aside from the news report na nababasa natin. No? I mean,
of course, we will continue to enhance our knowledge about these things. No?
Yun.
Okay.
It needs intelligence work.
Yeah. And actually, individuals cannot really cover all the fields of knowledge. No? So that's why we need some specialization. Maybe we can be briefed by General Parlade and his people, and his intelligence people. Maybe we will also tap resources sa Intel community natin, ng mga kaibigan natin. By the way, halimbawa, si Cecil Kainglet, ang kaibigan natin na nasa Iloilo, is now a consultant to the Armed Forces of the Philippines sa curriculum ng training nila. No? So, we could...
Pwede.
Okay, ang next item sa international developments po natin ay yung warning ng China, nagbibigay ng warning sa China sa Asian nations. This is from Iranian News, no? Press TV. Ditong pinili kong i-feature para we're aware na yung Iranian global news na binabasa din po natin. China warns Asian nations to guard against US strategy of sowing divisions. Gustong hatiin, for example, ang ASEAN, ang Asia, nagbubuo sila ng anti-China Quad, with India, Japan, Australia, the US, New Zealand, and so on. Yung mga yon. Pero naalala ko nga, dahil na India nagbabalanse between China and US, pero kumikiling medyo sa US. Naalala ko yung Opium War, Mauro. India was also India ang supplier ng opium to the British, that the British was selling and pushing inside China, di ba? So itong India, medyo double-bladed sword itong India, but we must continue to try to win over the Asian nations like India or Japan. Yung Australia, New Zealand, kung gusto nila puti sila, sige, I think it's very difficult to change them. There is an element of white supremacy sa puti talaga, and I hope okay. So you have anything to add to this warning Asian nations to guard against US strategy of sowing division, Mauro?
Well, it's been going on for a long time. I've been advocating for precisely to guard against that. I don't suppose I have to be reminded about it now. I've been doing my bit towards that end. Sa mga column ko, binibulgar ko yung mga pakana ng US. In fact, as far back as 2010, I was already agitating. Nakikita ko na yung mga maneuvers ng US dyan. Yung kanilang naval exercises sa China Sea. It's been there for so long. I've been forewarned about that for so long ago. I'm in a position para maging aware tungkol dyan.
Yeah, and I think one point we can bring up in this connection is yung dual citizenship natin. Ito ay napakasama para sa national interest natin. At nakikita po natin mga Grace po, mga Alan Cayetano, and so on. Doble cara talaga ang laro nila. And it is not good for the Philippines to have this double citizenship law, dual citizenship law. But yan nga ang inimpose nitong mga American boys dito, sila Drilon and sila Angara, I think, were those who proposed this. Okay, and this is international economy na para malaman ng taong bayan, ng audience natin, talagang China is now leading the recovery. Ang pinaka-ebidensya po itong nakaraang October 1 at yung buong linggong sumunod po, the Golden Week ang tawag sa China, yung establishment of the People's Republic of China, October 1. More than 600 million people traveled in China during the Golden Week. Yung turista nila sa loob ng China. And 600 million nag-train, nag-aeroplano, nag-bus, and so on. So that means talagang hindi na sila takot sa COVID-19. Dito ngayon sa Pilipinas, ngayon lang nagsisimula yung one space gap sa jeepney, and so on. Binubuhay na ulit atin ng public transport. Yung airline industry natin, bagsak pa rin. Wala pang gustong mag-aeroplano dito, and so on. So you can see the progress in China. 600 million.
Nga pala, noong October 1, yun yung hindi nyo ako sinama sa China. Diba? Pumunta kayo dun sa celebration, dapat hindi nyo ako sinama.
Yung nakaraang taon yun.
Yung nakaraang taon, 1 year ago na pala yun, no?
Kasi sa karanasan ng ating mga host na Chinese, yung mga 70-year-olds and above, either na-hospital pag dumating doon, tulad mo, di ba, na-hospital ka, natatakot sila baka may ibang mangyari pa. So,
sabi mo sa mga kaibigan natin doon, masamanda mo ako, hindi pa ako
Okay. So, ito na po ang opinion mula sa Washington Post, si Robert Zelek. Zelek. Kaya ako binibigyan Yeah, medyo nag-freeze ang iyong signal ka, Mauro. Anyway, tutuloy ko po
Ikaw
ito.
din eh.
No? Oo nga masama. Dahil nga yung weather din natin naapektuhan ng internet signal. Anyway, itong opinion from the Washington Post, Mauro, importante ito dahil nagsulat po ng opinion nito si Robert Zelig. Si Robert Zelig is a former U.S. Trade Representative and Deputy Secretary of State ng Estados Unidos. He is the author of the America in the World, a history of U.S. diplomacy and foreign policy. So mataas na ranggo po itong Amerikanong ito. At nagsulat siya ng opinion piece niya sa Washington Post. At sabi niya sa title niya, Trump is losing his new Cold War with China. And so mahaba po itong artikulo at marami pong mga puntos po na sinasabi siya. I just wanted to inform our audience that ang Amerika mismo ngayon ay nagdududa na sa Cold War ni Trump, trade war ni Trump. Naulat ko naman ng mga nakaraang episode. 3,500 American companies have sued, kinasuhan ang US government para sa reimbursement ng taripa na inimpose ni Trump sa Chinese import. So nagkakagulo po sa loob ng Estados Unidos, liban po doon sa eleksyon pa nila. And then next item po, is that the last item? Mauro?
Sino nag-sue? Sino nag-sue, Mentong?
3,500 American companies like Walmart.
Oo. Dinimanda ang US government at dinimanda si Trump for the tariff war.
US government. Dinimanda ang US government na ibalik po o i-reimburse yung kanilang binayan na taripa sa Chinese imports nila.
Pero nagbayad na sila.
Nagbayad na sila, siyempre. Hindi nila
okay. So, anong chances na maano kaya yan? Sabagay, may legion ng US eh.
Well, si Biden will have a different and more flexible policies of trade war with China and with his allies like European Union and so on. But actually, I had prepared another news item, an opinion piece from Europe naman, na sinasabi, whether it's Biden or Trump, hihiwalay na talaga ang European Union sa Estados Unidos. Kasi nga, ang merkado ng China ay napakahalaga para din sa Europe.
Yan ang sinasabi ko eh. Yan ang sinasabi ko eh. Sasabihin ng European Union, arisin niya ang trade preferences sa Philippines. Pag hindi niya inatras yung demanda kay Maria Ressa, hindi binalik yung franchise na ABS-CBN, etc. O di bahala sila. Sila mismo, kailangan nila yung market ng China. Sabi ko nga, good freedom. Good freedom. Sige, malis kayo. Meron kami market dito ng China.
Okay. And finally, it's already 7:15, no? Lamampas na tayo ng 15 minutes na target na 1 hour. And we have one hanggang 7 o'clock tayo target. Pero laki na naman tayong lumalampas ng 7:15, 7:30, up to 7:30. But I try also to produce to prepare a video from I download from the internet for the benefit of our audience, no? And tonight we have a video from Martin Jacques or Martin Jakes, no? The British scholar who wrote the book When China Rules the World. He was in the Philippines in 2012 or 2014 and paulit-ulit niya sinasabi, China po ang new power sa mundo. He's a British historian, remember, no? Hindi siya Asian. And he now has a video presentation na pinapaliwanag niya why Trump cannot defeat China. Watch it as we exit from our show this evening. I'll just read some of the messages, Mauro, from Freddy Orellana. Basically, sinasabi niya sa mahabang message niya that yung Skyway is not owned by the government, no? At ito ay magiging magastos, no? At itong ginagawa nitong mga projects na to ay umutang tayo, ano? We do not need money of greedy oligarchs for public utilities, sabi niya. Money is very available from AIIB and so on. So, pwedeng gobyerno nang gumawa nitong infrastructure projects dahil marami namang perang pautang tulad ng Asian Institute Investment and Infrastructure Investment Bank, BRICS Bank, and so on. Basically, yan ang message ni Freddy Oredina. Si Ana Malindog, writer, is saying hello. And sabi niya, divide and conquer strategy yung ginagawa na yung ganap ng US, sabi ni Ana Malindog. And sa kabila po, nasaan na tayo? D. Carmona, good day, Mentong. Lagi kaming nakasubaybay sa inyo. Keep up the work. From London, England po, si D. Carmona. Joms Dison, Mentong, naniniwala ba kayo sa Illuminati at talaga ba na control nila ang bansa at binabagsak nila ang hindi sumusunod sa kanila? Well, this will require a long discussion. There are groups like Illuminati, but it's more complex than what some people try to project, no? Kuhar Evelyn, exploring Tokyo, mas gugustuhin ko pang na magkaroon na tayo ng national ID, ano? From Gavin Elcano, gumaduate ba po talaga si Amy sa UP? Hanggang ngayon, pinagkakaguluhan iyon ng mga dilawan. Nauna talagang gumaduate naman, ano? Number 2, it doesn't matter. Ang mahalaga ay kanyang wisdom at nakikita po natin sa kanyang sinabi tungkol sa hybrid election, tungkol sa national ID, yung peligro ng may foreigner ang gagawa po ng national ID natin, and so on. No? So, let's judge things. Kasi yung mga partisan propaganda, nakakagulo lang po yan. Okay, from Ken Fernandez, good evening po. Ngayon na lang ulit nakapanood si Ken. Maharlikain, ongoing pa po ba ang skirmishes between Armenia and Azerbaijan? Well, Russia has sponsored the truce. From D. Carmona, Mentong, ang daming propaganda ng West gamit ang media nila laban sa China. Ngayon naman, mga Muslim sa China ang ginagamit nila. Send ko sa inyo mga link po. Thanks. Sige po, I'll wait for that. Pepe Malonzo, hinaharang ng Communist Bloc ang mga pondo sa Kongreso pa lang. Ayan yung Makabayan Bloc. Para maging pilay ang military capabilities natin at makabay sa mga bagong teknolohiya sa pagtatanggol ng ating soberenya. Meron ba akong na-miss so far? Okay. And General, good afternoon po mga sir. Na-late ako. Medyo hindi ko mabasa yung isa. Lang come from night, galing lang siya sa night duty. Okay. Well, Mauro, before I roll the video from Martin Jacks, very, very malaman na video. Sinasabi ni Martin Jack dito sa kanyang pagpapaliwanag na malinaw na the rising power is China and China will be the main power. Hindi lang matanggap ng Estados Unidos tulad nung panahon ng Britanya na lumalakas at umaangat ang Estados Unidos bilang main power sa mundo. Hindi pa rin matanggap ng ilang mga dekada ng Britanya. So sabi niya, hindi na ito matatanggi ng Estados Unidos na sila ay descending power, pababa na power na. And the best thing for everyone in this case is stop denial. Yung anong denial sa sa Tagalog, yung nagpapatay mali. Pagtanggi o nagpapatay mali, di ba?
Patay mali siya. Salitang kaliyan.
Nagpapatay mali siya ng Amerika na, hindi, kami pa rin. Kami pa rin, hindi China. Kami pa rin. Hindi, ang pinakamaganda tanggapin ang katotohanan ng walang gulo, walang away at magtulungan. Yan ang mensahe. So, Mauro, before we roll the video, ikaw, anong impression mo sa maraming...
Meron lang akong comment doon sa binitawan mong salita. Sabi mo, hindi matanggap ng US, hindi matanggap ng Great Britain ang US bilang rising power at the time. At in fact, yung war plan Orange ay ginawa yun ng US para kontrahin ang ang Britain sa isang nakikita lang magkakagira ang US, rising power ng US at hindi parallel. Hindi matanggap ng US ang China bilang rising power, so magkakaroon ng paplano ng gera. Pero hindi natuloy yung gera ng US at Britain. In much the same way, hindi rin matutuloy yung ganun ba ibig sabihin yan? Hindi rin matutuloy ang threatening conflict between the United States and China.
Before I respond to that, pakiulit yung War Plan Orange kasi medyo nag-garble ka kanina.
War Plan Orange, merong ginawang plano yung United States na merong possibility na magkakaroon ng gera between the United States and Great Britain. Yun ang nakikita nilang main potential enemy across the Atlantic, yung Great Britain. Pero hindi nangyari yung mga nangyaring yung mga circumstances hindi dumating dun sa pagbabanggaan ng United States at Great Britain. In much the same way ngayon, merong scenario na magkakagera ang US at ang China because hindi matanggap ng US na rising power ang China. Kung magpaparallel tayo, yung hindi pagkakatuloy ng gera ng Great Britain at US ay maaaring mangyari din yan. Hindi matutuloy yung gera ng US at China.
Well, I think yun ang malinaw na strategy ng China. No? Sobrang malakas na ang China sa ekonomiya, sa depensa, na hindi na panalunan ng Amerika yung kanyang balak. Matagal na diktum ni Sun Tzu, winning a war without fighting. Mananalo ka na, hindi mo magkakalabanan. Mananalo ka na, hindi ka na magkakaroon ng labanan. So, yan po ang direksyon ng China. Kaya ang China, cool lang paulit-ulit. Okay. So anyway, pakinggan natin at panoodin po natin si Martin Jacques.
Okay. Sige na. Mahaba nga na yan, discussion niya.
Okay. Joss, can you roll the video now?
I think that the United States is now just beginning to come to terms with the idea that it's in decline. It's not accepted the idea, and I don't expect it to easily, because my own experience in Britain is that for decades, we denied that we were in decline. And in some senses, we still do deny it. And America is just beginning to face up to this. Now, Obama, in one of his speeches, actually dismissed the idea. He said nonsense that America would possibly be in decline. Now, Obama is not a stupid man, but it was obviously something that could not be said. The American public would not tolerate the idea of a politician saying that the country's in decline without it affecting his popularity. So Trump, in a sense, is the first president and the first, American leader who, in a sense, has admitted that America's in decline. Of course, his notion of decline is one that can be reversed by him. So he has the kind of great leader attitude towards decline. But at least in some shape or form, he has recognized the fact. Now, if you look closely at his policies, I think that his policies are defined by retreat. Retreat from agreements that have been made in the past. Retreat from the extent to which America has been shaping and influencing the world and leading lots of multilateral bodies and so on. He's in steady retreat from these positions, hence his abandonment of various treaties like the Paris Agreement, like the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So I think that what Trump represents is a retreat from where America has got to, and a retreat into itself, and an attempt to redefine what America is, in his terms, as a primarily white nation. And his retreat from the world is also, I think, a retreat from the way the world is moving and where the world is moving. The world is moving more and more in the direction of growing power for the developing countries, the growing importance of developing countries. So he would absolutely set its face against reforming international institutions which enable them to have more power, because Trump's whole point is we want negotiations, we want bargains, we want deals on our terms, not on other countries' terms. So I think that what Trump represents is a reactionary response to the rise of China, I say that, to the rise of China and to the rise of the developing world. Now, this was always a possibility, that at some point, the forces in America, those forces in America that felt they didn't like what was happening, that felt their own interests had been badly affected by, for example, in the Midwest, where manufacturing has been declining, that they would try and blow the whistle and call a halt to it and try and reverse these historic processes. So in doing this, Trump, in a way, is setting his face against progress, the idea of progress, the idea of modernization, the idea of modernity. I mean, look who he's backing, for example. The constituency he was obviously speaking to in that terrible UN speech were his support base in the Midwest and around America. And who are they? They are people, I feel sorry for them in some ways. They're people who've done really badly out of globalization. They're the guys who, since the late 1970s, 1980s, their living standards are more or less frozen, if they haven't got worse. He is mobilizing them. Often they're racially prejudiced, so he's appealing to their racial prejudices. His view of the future is, in those terms, constructed in terms of those who would wish to return to the past, because the present has given them a very raw deal. So I think that we should see Trump not as a clown, not as an idiot, not simply as a demagogue, but someone who is a real political figure that is voicing the views of an important constituency in the United States. So therefore, what do I expect? I expect Trump to carry on in the direction that he's been going. And I think he's also a disturbing figure and a dangerous figure. I think that